Hello and welcome dear students of class 12. Today we are going to do a lesson from your supplementary reader Vistas, which is The Third Level by Jack Finney. Children, Jack Finney was an American author who lived from 1911 till 1995. Jack Finney is best known for his scientific fiction and thrillers. The story The Third Level is a scientific fantasy which is very intriguing and interesting at the same time. This story was published in 1952. The main protagonist, the main character, is Charlie, who is an ordinary man. He is about 31 years old. He is a commuter by the Grand Central Station in New York City. One fine evening, while rushing home to his wife Louisa, he decides to take the train from the subway at Grand Central Station in New York. The Grand Central Station actually has two levels, but Charlie finds himself on the third level, which actually does not exist. What happens next, we'll find out in the story. The presidents of the New York Central and the New York New Haven and Hart Road railroads will swear on a stack of timetables that there are only two. The narrator refers to the station masters. Who are the presidents? The station masters of the New York Central and the New York New Haven and Hartford railroads. They will swear, they will take a promise on a pile of timetables that there are actually only two levels at Grand Central. But I say there are three because I have been on the third level of the Grand Central Station. But the narrator says there are three levels because I have myself been to the third level at the Grand Central Station. Yes, I have taken the obvious step. I talked to a psychiatrist friend of mine, among others. When the people did not believe, he says he took the obvious step, that is, he discussed the matter among other people. He also discussed it with a psychiatrist friend. He discussed it with a counselor. I told him about the third level at Grand Central Station, and he said, now children, underline this point, it is very important. It was a waking dream wish fulfillment. When the narrator told that he had visited the third level at Grand Central Station, the psychiatrist explained and he said that it was a waking dream wish fulfillment. It was like a daydream for him. He said I was unhappy. He also told the narrator that he was unhappy in his life. That made my wife kind of mad. But he explained that he meant when the narrator's wife heard this that he was unhappy, she thought maybe he was unhappy in his marital life, so she was angry. But the psychiatrist explained by saying that, now children underline this also is very important, that the modern world is full of insecurity, fear, war, worry, and all the rest of it, and that I just want to escape. The psychiatrist said that the modern world is full of so much stress, insecurities, fear, there is a threat of war, and there is so much worry and anxiety that the narrator wanted to run away from it. He wanted an escape from this unhappiness and worries and tensions and fear of the war. Well, who doesn't? The narrator defends himself by saying everybody wants an escape from fear and war and worry and tensions. Everybody I know wants to escape, but they don't wander down into any third level at Grand Central Station. He says everybody wants an escape, but they don't wander down to the third level at the Grand Central Station. But that's the reason, he said, and my friends all agreed. And the psychiatrist said this was the reason, and all the narrator's friends agreed to what he explained. Everything points to it, they claimed. He said that other things also point towards it. What are the other things? My stamp collecting, for example, that's, underline this, a temporary refuge from reality. They all said that the narrator had the hobby of stamp collection. He was a philatelist. He had the hobby of philately, Philately, and he said that stamp collection was also a temporary refuge or escape from reality. Well, maybe, but my grandfather didn't need any refuge from reality. Things were pretty nice and peaceful in his day, from all I hear, and he started my collection. Again, the narrator is trying to defend himself, and he says that if it means a temporary refuge from reality, then my grandfather did not want to escape from any harsh realities of life, and things were really peaceful and good in his times in the past, and the stamp collection was started by his grandfather. It's a nice collection too. Blocks of four of practically every US issue, first day covers, and so on. President Roosevelt collected stamps too, you know. And the narrator says it is a nice collection started by his grandfather. Blocks of four stamps of every US issue that was published. First day covers. Children, first day covers are when a new stamp is published or issued. The people who collect the stamps, they buy the new stamp, they paste it on a envelope. There is nothing inside the envelope. They just paste it on an envelope and post it to themselves, and the postmark shows the date which they keep in their collections. And the narrator gives the example of President Roosevelt of America. He too had the hobby of stamp collection. Anyway, here's what happened at Grand Central. Now he's telling us that what had actually happened when he reached the third level at Grand Central. One night last summer, I worked late, underline this, at the office. I was in a hurry to get uptown to my apartment, so I decided to take the subway from Grand Central because it's faster than the bus. The narrator says one evening he worked late in the office, so he was rushing home to his apartment, which is in the uptown of New York City, and he decided to take the subway train from the Grand Central Station because it is faster than the bus. Now I don't know why this should have happened to me. Underline this, I'm just an ordinary guy named Charlie, 31 years old, and I was wearing a tan gabardine suit and a straw hat with a fancy band. I passed a dozen men who looked just like me, and I wasn't trying to escape from anything. I just wanted to get home to Louisa, my wife. He said it was an ordinary day. He worked late in the office, so he was in a hurry to return home, and he decided to take the train from the Grand Central. Now he said why this has happened with him. He's an ordinary guy. His name is Charlie. He's 31 years old. He was wearing a suit which was of tan color, and the material is gabardine suit. He was wearing a straw hat with a fancy band around it, and he crossed many men who were looking like him. They were dressed like him, and he said he was not trying to escape from anything. He was just in a hurry to return home to his wife, Louisa. I turned into Grand Central from Vanderbilt Avenue and went down the steps to the first level, where you take trains like the 20th century. He said he went to the Grand Central Station. He entered from Vanderbilt Avenue. He went down a flight of stairs to the first level. From the first level, you take the trains to the modern places like the 20th century. Then I walked down another flight to the second level where the suburban trains leave from, ducked into an arched doorway heading for the subway, and got lost. Underline this. Then he walked down another flight of stairs. He reached the second level. From here, you get the trains for the suburban areas or for the outskirts of the city. Then he ducked into an arched doorway and it was heading for the subway. And after that, he says he got lost. But that's easy to do. He says it's not difficult there. I have been in and out of Grand Central hundreds of times, but I am always bumping into new doorways and stairs and corridors. He says he has taken the train from Grand Central Station hundreds of times, but he always finds new doorways and stairs and corridors. It's like a maze, and he always gets confused. Once I got into a tunnel about a mile long and came out in the lobby of the Roosevelt Hotel. Another time I came up in an office building on 46th Street, 3 blocks away. He says once he entered a tunnel which was a mile long, and when he came out, he found himself in the lobby of the Roosevelt Hotel. Another time he came in the office building which was on the 46th Street, and it was 3 blocks away. So this has happened many times. Sometimes I think Grand Central is growing like a tree, pushing out new corridors and staircases like roots. And the narrator says that he finds Grand Central is growing and expanding like a tree expands, and every time new branches and roots expand, the station is also expanding rapidly. There's probably a long tunnel that nobody knows about, feeling its way under the city right now, on its way to Times Square, and maybe another to Central Park. And he says now when we are talking, there might be another long tunnel that might be finding its way under the city, and it might come out on Times Square, and another tunnel might come out to Central Park. And maybe because for so many people through the years, Grand Central has been an exit, a way of escape. Underline this. And this he finds, and he says maybe for many people this has been an exit or a way of escape. Maybe that's how the tunnel I got into. But I never told my psychiatrist friend about that idea. He did not tell the psychiatrist that he finds himself into the tunnels and they come out at different places. The corridor I was in began angling left and slanting downward, and I thought that was wrong. Underline, children, this. When the narrator entered the corridor, which turned left and started going downward, first he felt that he was going wrong, but I kept on walking. All I could hear was the empty sound of my own footsteps, and I didn't pass a soul. There was nobody else around, and he heard only his own footsteps. There was not a single person around him. Then I heard that sort of hollow roar ahead. That means open space and people talking. Then he heard a hollow roaring sound ahead that suggested that outside there was open space, and then he heard people talking. The tunnel turned sharp left. I went down a short flight of stairs and came out on the third level at Grand Central Station. The tunnel turned sharply towards left, and when the narrator went down the flight of stairs, he found himself on the third level at Grand Central Station. For just a moment, I thought I was back on the second level. For a second, he thought that he had come back again on the second level. But I saw. Now, what did he notice? What did he see on the third level? This is very important. You will underline all these points. The room was smaller, there were fewer ticket windows and train gates, and the information booth in the center was wood and old looking. He noticed that this level was smaller than the other two levels. There were less ticket windows and train gates, and the information booth or inquiry booth was also made up of wood, and it looked old fashioned. And the man in the booth wore a green eye shade and long black sleeve protectors. The man who was sitting on the booth, he was wearing green eye shades or glasses and arm protectors. The lights were dim and sort of flickering. Then I saw why the lights were dim. They were open flame gas lights. They were not electric lights, they were gas lights. There were brass spittoons on the floor, and across the station a glint of light caught my eye. A man was pulling a gold watch from his vest pocket. Then there were brass spittoons kept on the floor. Brass spittoons are spittoons in which we spit. They were made up of brass. And across the station, he saw a reflection of light. He was attracted by it, and he noticed that a man was taking out a gold watch from his vest pocket. He snapped open the cover, glanced at his watch, and frowned. He opened the cover of the watch, looked at the time, and gave a frown. He wore a derby hat, a black four-button suit with tiny lapels, and he had a big black handlebar mustache. The man was wearing a derby hat. He had four-button suit with tiny folds in the front, and he was having big black handlebar-like mustache. Then I looked around and saw that everyone in the station was dressed like 18, 19 something. And when he noticed around all the people at the station, they were dressed as if they were in the 1890s. The story is published in 1952. The narrator is living in 1950s. But when he looked around, the people were dressed in old-fashioned clothes and they were looking like as if they were in 1890s. I never saw so many beards, sideburns, and fancy mustaches in my life. The narrator noticed that man had beards, they had side whiskers and big mustaches, and he had never seen so many men with big mustaches and whiskers in his life. A woman walked in through the train gate. She wore a dress with leg of mutton sleeves and skirts to the top of her high button shoes. When he noticed a woman who came out of the train gate, she was also dressed in old fashioned clothes. Back of her, out on the tracks, I caught a glimpse of a locomotive. Underline this. He looked at the tracks. There he got a glimpse of a locomotive, a railway engine, which was also very old, a very small Courier and Ives locomotive. The name of the company was written with a funnel-shaped stack. It had a funnel-shaped chimney, and then I knew. Then he realized that he was in 1890s. He was in the past. Children, let's stop here today. In my next video, I'll explain you the story further. Thank you.